Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is gonna be absolutely bonkers. Now, today's video is gonna be your Florida housing market report. And what I'm gonna do is go over the 4 top overvalued cities or metro areas in Florida. And we're gonna look at overvaluation, we're gonna look at median sales price, we're gonna look at inventory, and we're gonna look at listing price cuts to get an overall idea of what's happening in Florida. Now, here's the really crazy thing. What I have found, you guys, is the metro area with the least amount of inventory growth has the highest price cuts. And the metro area with the largest inventory growth has the lowest price cuts. So here's the thing what I learned about Florida. Florida is absolutely crazy right now. There is so much migration and investor demand in Florida. That state's in serious trouble. And the 4 cities that we're going to go over today is Tampa, Miami, Orlando, and Jacksonville. And those are the 4 metro areas that we're going to deep dive in today. And at the end of the video, I'm going to bring my man, someone I love, my boss, division president at Amcap Home Loans, and he's going to give us a breakdown on adjustable rate mortgages and if those are really soaring. So I want to add a little bit of additional value at each of my videos, and who better to do that than someone that I absolutely love and respect and I know is a good person. But regardless, you guys, we're going to jump into this right now, and I'm going to try to keep this very fast. I'm just going to give you percentages and brief numbers so that we don't have to have a long video. But before I begin, for all of the effort, please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and please, guys, shoot me a comment below. Let me know what you think about this data because it is absolutely bonkers. Let's get started right now. Now, here's where I want to start, you guys, and let me explain how I'm coming up with overvaluation. Now, this map represents Black Knight's HPI growth, and this is only annual growth. So essentially, this is how much the value went up in just 1 year. Now, obviously, this would be different if we use 2 years. So this isn't a traditional overvaluation map, but it is important to look at because this is going over the annual HPI growth. This will be linked in my description. But we can go right over here, actually, because the first city that we're going to talk about is Tampa. Now, Tampa is ranked number 1 in the entire nation for HPI growth. So Tampa is overvalued, in my opinion, and according to this, right, HPI annual HPI growth is overvalued by 32%. The number 2 in the nation, another Florida metro at Miami. Miami is overvalued by 29.4%. So first and second belongs to Florida. Florida's in bad shape, you guys. Now, the third one we're going to go over is Orlando. Orlando is the number 5 metro in the nation for overvaluation, right? And Orlando's sitting at 27.7%. Now, the next one is Jacksonville. Jacksonville is number 6 in the nation at 27.1% overvaluation. So Florida has number 1, 2, 5, and 6 overvalued metro areas in the entire nation. Isn't that absolutely insane, you guys? Now, what we should see is 5%. Not stuff in the high 20s and high 30s, but we can clearly see that all 4 of those metro areas are overwhelmingly overvalued. Now, obviously, Miami is the worst at over 30%, but all 4 metro areas are in really bad shape. So I'm starting to really understand all of the comments I get from people in Florida that say, Travis, the house market's not slowing down, it's going crazy. Look at it. Florida's in super bad shape, and the fundamentals and what I'm about to show you guys, it doesn't even add up. Why is the metro area with the least amount of inventory growth showing the highest price cuts? This is why it is so vital to understand how your local market works. But let's get started now. And the next thing, which is the median sales price. And what I'm going to show you guys is how much median sales price went from peak to where it is right now and what the percentage of decline is. Let's get started. And you guys, this is Redfin's weekly housing market data. I'm going to try to show you on a different video how I even come up with this. This video, I'm going to keep it a little bit short, so I'll do it probably when I go back out west or south states or the East Coast states. But really what I want you guys to see here is basically the metro area of Tampa peaked in July at about 393,000 median sales price. It's now gone down to 383K, which is a difference, guys, of only $10,000. But again, we're coming out of a red hot housing market, so we want to see this. But what this is representing is Tampa, even though Tampa is 32% overvalued, it's only gone down 2.5% from June's peak. All right, so 2.5% is not a lot, obviously, but at least it's a start. Let's get started on the next one. Okay, so now we're going to Miami. Now, Miami is a little bit better. Now, here's the peak in June. The median sales price peaked in Miami in June at about $491K. It's now gone down to $468K, which is a difference of $23,000. So Miami has actually gone down from peak 4.6%. So Miami, thank God, we're kind of out of this skyrocketing red hot housing market. We're now cooling in Miami, and we are down 4.6% from peak. You guys know I need 15%. Miami already has 4.6%. Let's move on. All right, guys. Now here's Orlando. Now Orlando actually peaked back in May at 401K. It has now dropped to 387K, which makes a difference of $14,000. So Orlando from peak to now has gone down 3.4%. Again, you guys, it's not a lot, but at least it's a start. We're coming out of this red hot housing market into a cooling market. So hopefully those median sales prices will continue to go down in Orlando. Okay, here's Jacksonville. Now, Jacksonville actually peaked in June at 380K. It is now average median sales price of 368K, or $12,000 difference, which means from peak to now, the median sales price has actually dropped 3.1% in Jacksonville. So to recap, Miami has actually gone down the most at 4.6%, and actually Tampa has gone down the least at only 2.5%. But at least all four of those metro areas are showing declines in median sales price, and we want that trend to continue. Obviously, because 2 to 4% is really not a huge difference when the houses went up 40 to 60% in the last 2 years. But now let's move on to the next thing, which is inventory. Let's take a look at how much inventory has grown in all four of those metro areas. All right, guys, so we're going to start again with Tampa. This is Redfin weekly housing market data. Again, this is active listings for Tampa. You guys can access this data yourselves and put in your own metro area. That's why I link it. But what's important to note here is we were at our low in Tampa in February. We are now at our high right here of 12,089 units, which essentially is a difference of 114%. I'm going to spare you guys the intimate math. You could do the math yourself, and I'll do a video to show you how to do it. But what I want to point out is Tampa has gone up 114%, yet has only gone down 2.5%. So we have this massive inventory growth, but unfortunately a slow decline in median sales price. Now here's Miami, and if you remember, Miami actually has the biggest median sales price decline of all metro areas. But here's what's really astounding. So the low is actually in April. The high is right here, but here's the messed up part. The amount of units only increased by 1,419 units, which means Miami has only increased in inventory 14%. That's crazy, guys. So Miami's only gone up from the low 14% in inventory, yet it has the biggest price declines. That's crazy to me. And again, goes back into my point. You really got to pay attention to your local housing market, because some local housing markets break all principles, right? And I think that's what we're seeing in Florida. Florida's all whack. Okay, guys, so here's Orlando. Now, Orlando's low was actually in February. We're at our high here now at an additional amount of units of 4,271, or an inventory growth in Orlando of 90%. So pretty monster increase in inventory in Orlando. And that's probably why we have a higher median sales price decline in Orlando, because of that 90% inventory growth. Okay, now here's Jacksonville. And this is very interesting. The low in Jacksonville was actually in March. So if we fast forward to today, we actually have another 2,455 units in Jacksonville, which basically means a 59% increase in inventory from March. So, I mean, it's a pretty decent amount of inventory if you consider it's going from March. But, we're probably going to want to see a lot more inventory. And you can kind of see that a lot of this is rounding off. And the reason why it's starting to appear rounding off, you guys, is we're going into months historically when people remove listings off of the house. So normally when we go in September and past September, inventory actually goes down. It's a historic thing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how much it goes down in every metro area and how much that's replaced by new home builds and investors that need to sell their property. So it's going to be really interesting to keep our eyes on inventory and really, see whether or not it's going to increase or decrease. But again, you guys, look at Miami. Miami had only a 14% increase in inventory and had the biggest metro median sales price decline, which essentially is telling me that we don't need hyper inventory for median sales price to drop. Interesting if you think about it. Now, seriously, think about that for a minute. Now, let's get to the next thing and our last thing here, which is listing price cuts. Let's go. And again, you guys, I'm using Redfin. This is the percent of active listings with price cuts in Tampa. Now, it's gone down a little bit, but not a lot. But Tampa actually has 12.9% of active listings with price cuts. I want to show you that because it kind of goes into what's going on active listings, and it kind of shows the emotional aspect. So, Tampa's at 12.9%, which is actually the highest of all 4 metro areas, which is very interesting. Now, look at this, guys. Miami is fascinating to me. So Miami is only at 3.9%. So again, Miami is showing the least amount of inventory growth, the least amount of price cuts, yet it has dropped the highest amount of all 4 metro areas in median sales price. I mean, this is absolutely astonishing. Again, I tell you, that means we don't need hyper supply. We don't need every single person cutting their prices for median sales price to go down. Right? Pretty fascinating if you think about it. But regardless, Miami is only at 3.9%. All right, guys. So here's Orlando. Now, Orlando's at 9.8%, which is not too bad, but it is higher, obviously, than it was all year when there's essentially no price drops. I mean, look at it. It's gone up significantly to 9.8%. Again, Tampa's the highest. Now, here's Jacksonville at 10.5%, which is the second highest of all 4 metro areas, and right above Orlando at 9.8%. So again, Jacksonville is at 10.5%. So Tampa and Miami have the opposite things going on. Tampa is flourishing with inventory. It's flourishing with price cuts, yet the median sales price is barely going down. But Miami is barely increasing in inventory. People are barely price cutting. Yet the median sales price has gone down the most. Do you guys see how backwards Florida really is? I believe Florida is actually the biggest in trouble. The biggest state is the state in the biggest amount of trouble from an economic collapse and housing market crash. I think it's actually going to get really bad in Florida. And if you wanted to buy in Florida, it should point to signs that, hey, be patient because something's going to break, right? And when something breaks, the bigger it is, the harder they fall. Now, what I want to do is I want to do a very brief interview with my man to get a little bit of a better idea of what's going on in the adjustable rate mortgage market right now. Russel Calvert, once again, my friend, once again, my fearless leader. Thank you for taking your time being on my personal YouTube channel, brother. How are you?
I'm doing great. Travis, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. Always working hard, as you know, brother. So today's question for you, tell our viewers essentially the state of adjustable rate mortgages. Is it a good idea to get an ARM? Is it a bad idea? Is it as bad as 2006, 2008? What's going on with these ARMs, brother?
Loaded question, but ARMs, you get that now a lot just because all the movement in rates, everybody's checking in the ARMs. It's a little bit of a misnomer. Back in 2008, they were significantly lower than a fixed rate mortgage. Now, but rates have been low for so long and they swung up so high that rates really aren't too far off from a fixed rate right now.
Yeah.
And really the only caveat on the ARM product, you have to do like a 2 or 3 year ARM, which he wants to do that. And then you'll see, the rate will be a little bit lower. But your, 7 year and your 10-year ARMs, they're very similar to a fixed rate. So just, there's too much uncertainty out there in the market for these banks and mortgage companies to lock into a fixed longer term ARM. So that's why they're not as aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a good point, man. So,
yeah.
I mean, the rate's not even that much lower than a 30-year fixed. And Russell, can you touch on the fact that when you go to qualify for a mortgage, you can actually get qualified for a lower loan amount using an ARM versus fixed?
So that's also a good question. So a lot of folks, they're like, oh, I'm going to go get an ARM, even if it, go get a 3-year ARM or a lower term ARM, and they think that, oh, they're going to have more buying power because instead of, for instance, 5%, they might get 4.5 or whatever it is. But that's just not the case. You're going to be qualified on a fixed rate, a fully indexed ARM, which is essentially a fixed rate. And so you're going to have to qualify on the fixed rate term and rate anyway. So there's really that is kind of a misnomer. Great question, though.
Thank you, brother. Hey, and you know what, man? Like I said, I'll keep it brief, Russell. As always, man, love you. Thank you I think I kept it under 2 minutes this time.
You did. Hit me anytime, brother.
Appreciate you, brother. Sit tight with me, man, and I'll be back at you, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, you guys, if you have any questions about financing, shoot him an email, give him a call. He's like the quarterback. He'll put you in great hands. And I know pretty much every single loan officer he has under his team because I've helped train most of them, right? So they're good people. Reach out to them. But where I really want to conclude this video, you guys, is, just to reiterate how important demand was and how important the interest rates were. So even though we do have a lack of supply and we're probably not going to have hyper supply, demand is crippled. And this housing market was made, this bubble was formed from hyper demand. You remove that and it appears it doesn't matter how much supply is there, right? If there's no one buying houses, things are going to crumble. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing in Florida. So let's continue to keep our eyes on Florida. If you're on the sidelines, you guys keep doing better, improve credit, income, assets, stay encouraged, love your lives. And as always, I hope you guys got some value from this video. And if you're out there investing in real estate, I do wish you luck and I hope you win.